I'm Tim Ellis. Thanks for joining us for Laneway Live. You'll recognize our next guest from his many TV specials, from his appearances on Australia's Got Talent, Dancing with the Stars, and I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. He is a genuine Australian national celebrity. Please welcome the grand illusionist himself, Cosentino. Oh, it's so good to see you.
Hello.
Are you in Magicland?
I am. This is Magicland. Yeah, this is the boardroom that's been converted to kind of like I guess kind of a YouTube studio to some degree.
Well, all the conferencing is now done with video conferencing. So yeah, it's you've repurposed it well.
Exactly. So we're trying our best right now. But yeah, I can be Magicland because it's just me here by myself.
Really? It's just you by yourself?
Yeah, just me by myself. So my brother comes in on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays because he has the children and he has 4 children and he's homeschooling. So we have to restructure how we're doing things.
Wow. And so you're there by yourself, and
Yes.
Magicland's pretty big.
Yeah, it's kind of 2 factories put together, to be honest. So I'm here by myself and I'm working on new bits and pieces, new material, working on lots of online content, plus still writing children's books, working on a new, through my publisher HarperCollins, working on a new magic book, an Australian book actually about magic. So those things that I usually kind of squeeze in between shows have now become the priority.
And you get to actually relax a little bit more.
Exactly. My day doesn't have to be as rushed. We don't have to run from one meeting to the next, get home, do this, go back to Magicland. So it's far more chilled, which is great.
Now, I have to admit, when I got the whole message for the lockdown, I thought, oh, this will be all right. I can sort of tidy the house. I can find tricks that I haven't looked at for ages. I was finding rooms in my house I hadn't seen before. And
Yeah.
going through the stuff, have you had the same experience? You just potter about a bit and have a little look and go, oh, I haven't played with this for a while.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a lot of maintenance and cleaning. You don't get around, when you have the facility we kind of have, you don't get around to doing all the usual maintenance. So things kind of pile up. Things get really dirty. I'm a neat freak. I'm cleaning out now drawers. I'm cleaning out cupboards which have all our cloths and sheets where we sew all the bits and pieces for the show. So everything now is being tidied up and cleaned up and rearranged. And I haven't even come close to finishing. And so I do like that process of neatening everything up.
So when you get back to the whole schedule of doing the shows and being crazy, are you going to be like, but I still have to tidy the clothes, or is that going to go to someone else?
No, I'm hoping by the time everything goes back to so-called normal, that's all done. So we have to be diligent and make sure everything, because once the shows start and you got the rehearsals and you got the promo and you got the travel, you don't have that time to really clean everything up and neaten everything up. So it's got to be done before.
So a lot of people probably don't realize just how busy your schedule has been, but when coronavirus hit, it completely slammed your plans. How fast did that all happen?
It literally happened within 2 days. So straight away, I was about to go to Dreamworld in a week and a half, 2 weeks later, and that was just to do 33 shows. So within literally 2 days, we lost, without exaggerating, probably 50 something shows. And nobody was really postponing at that point. They were just like, oh, we're not sure what we're doing. We don't know what's happening. So everything now has been rescheduled or postponed. But at that stage, people, a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction by a few of the venues where they were kind of like, no, we're not doing anything. We're shutting down completely, which was pretty dramatic. The shows that I had control over, like my own shows that are happening at Crown, shows that were happening in regional Victoria or New South Wales, we can control and we can rearrange. But corporates, for example, they're not necessarily cancelled, but they're going to be rescheduled, but they haven't given any time frame of when that will happen because they don't know when they're putting on the conference.
That's right. And you talk about your tour. Your tour, I think, is scheduled to start in June. Is that right?
Yeah, so we were doing a number of different shows in June and then in August in Melbourne. And then we were doing a regional tour again in October, November. The regional tour hasn't been shifted yet. So fingers crossed that that doesn't get.
So you're optimistic that maybe by June people will be able to go back into theatres?
No. June, everything, June, July, August, which everything at Crown has been shifted, which was in August. That's been shifted to January next year.
Ah.
So no, I'm hoping by October. If we don't start to shift by October, if things don't start to kick in by October, you know, we're okay for now. You know, we had a great year last year. We're okay to work through at least 8-9 months. After that, it's going to start to get even more challenging and more difficult. Of course, the money that we had used in the business to kind of rebuild a new show or make a new website, that's all now being spent just living, let's say. So we're kind of in October starting from neutral again. So there's no kind of real growth in the business. And every year I want the business to grow, whether that be I don't know, a new show, or whether it be new facilities, or whatever it's going to be. That money, of course, is being spent from just sitting here, turning on the lights.
Yeah. Well, unlike me, you have massive running costs because you have a big team behind you, and they need to be looked after. And other magicians that I've spoken to, friends like Ungyul Lee, who has a massive illusion show. He was telling me that it's like a shark, you know, it cannot stop. You have to keep touring. You have to keep touring because as soon as you stop, you lose staff, they go elsewhere, and it becomes very hard to start again. I assume you're in that same boat.
He articulated that perfect. That's exactly right. Like the bigger the show gets, the more elaborate the venues you do, the more spectacular it is, which is all great. But it's a beast that needs to be fed. He said that his analogy of a shark is perfect. Because he's right. You have freelance staff. So if they're not working with you, they're going to get a job working on the set of Australia's Got Talent or Neighbours or whatever it's going to be. So you need to feed that. So you've got to have shows constantly coming in, plus all the overheads you have. You know, a lot of people don't realise just rehearsal space, storage. So yeah, it's got to be fed. It's got to keep going. Got to keep moving.
Because even your most basic of illusions are several $1,000s each, and I think you've got quite a few now, haven't you?
We have a lot of inventory. We have a lot of illusions, a lot of equipment, and yeah, I mean a basic piece, as you would know, Tim, is thousands of dollars. Let alone when you're doing an escape, an original concept, you're spending 20 grand to begin, just to. And it never works anyway. After you get it and you bring it back, it doesn't work. And that's just the construction of the apparatus, not the rehearsals, not the blocking, not the choreography. And then, of course, you've got to pay for people to help you choreograph it, or you've got to pay for lighting design. You've got, all these things. It's extraordinary.
So thinking of switching to close-up, maybe?
Yeah, well, the close-up would be, do you know what? A lot of people had, much success in close-up. But we grew up, I mean, I remember being a child. I grew up in the 90s where, close-up just wasn't with David Copperfield and Siegfried and Roy, and then going back and seeing Doug Henning. And it just wasn't, I always wanted to be, to me, magic was always about the theatricality, the showmanship. And that came about when I was introduced to magic through the stage performance, because of the lighting, because of the costumes, because of the sets. So I never grew up doing close-up magic. Straight away, I was on stage. The first things I would ever do would be on stage. So yes, actually do enjoy close-up magic, but that's not how I was introduced to it.
Well, I remember seeing you back in the day in Bernard's Juniors.
Exactly. And I was always a stage magician.
You were.
And, the Gene Kellys, the Fred Astaire's, the Michael Jacksons, the Prince, that they were the people, Madonna, that inspired me. Very theatrical performers. That shift came, what was it, 98, 99, when David Blaine came through? I think it actually was later. He came out in 98, but that shift was a little bit later. You probably know better than me, when it kind of shifted a little bit from the stage to more of the close-up. Which of course now close-up is probably it dominates, I think.
Yeah, but then again, it's interesting because you can't really fill a studio or fill a theatre like you do with close-up show, but then we had that weird thing where Dynamo. I've got the running joke with Dom Chambers. He did a show at Magic Festival called Domino.
Yeah.
And a lot of people
Right.
thinking they were going to see Dynamo.
Oh, wow. Did it work? Is the question.
It was a kid's show, so like, he's different from TV. so when Dynamo came out and he did his big stage show in Rod Laver Arena, it was close up, on screens. And people enjoyed it because he was the guy from TV. But if he wasn't the guy from TV, I don't think they would have bought into it. But I mean, even from 2000, in 2000, you took out the first prize in the stage competition at the Magic Convention in Melbourne. And that was I think your first taste of I'm here, I'm part of the whole Magic community, I can do this sort of stuff. And I remember the following convention, 2002, I did like a parody night show, and we had a gag with Mickey Wilde and yourself.
Yes, I remember.
I was talking about, it's the new Magic 2000 or whatever it is. So he comes out, does a silk vanish, boom, it's gone. In his deadpan style, we say, but the Magic, and then you came out and you did the dancing of the theatrical. It was fantastic. It was just the contrast of style.
Yeah, I remember. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
But since then, of course, you've done your own illusion tours. You did, I think, 4 or 5 tours before Australia's Got Talent, and I went and caught you in Ballarat one time, and I was amazed. I mean, I'd helped you get into the school shows. Remember back in the day doing the school shows?
School shows were such a training for me, because I had to put on a 50-minute show, and it would take me an hour to set it up with my brother, a 50-minute show, an hour to pack up, and then we'd repeat it, drive to the next school, and we'd do 2 a day, 10 a week. But it taught me, the show would not change, Tim, from prep to seniors kids, year 12. What would change would be my demeanor, my approach to how I would perform. And that was such good training for me to kind of find the right material, learn how to talk with children. Still to this day, one of the comments I get the most when I do a live show is how endearing it is with a child on stage. That all came about through the training of doing schools. And but yes, once again, doing schools, it was a stage show. It was never close up.
And the good thing is with the school shows, I mean, I know a lot of people, they'll try to cut it back and they'll try and do a really easy show. But your attitude is like, this is the show I want to do. And once you do school shows, that whole, it's going to take me an hour to set it up, becomes second nature. And it's not a stress out thing anymore. And you can start adding more things to it and make it even more complicated.
Correct. We did not cut corners. We would bring our own sound system, our own backdrop. I had my own microphones. I mean, we're talking 15 years ago. We would lug it in the van.
And how old were you?
And it was a theatre show. I started doing school shows when I was 17. I remember the first year I did school shows, I was performing for kids older than me. It was amazing. And I was so shy and nervous but the schools were great training. Great training.
And the shopping centres too, Eastland, all those other shopping centres used to go in, and you wouldn't do what everyone else did and bring a suitcase show. You'd bring in like 4 or 5 illusions and do a full-on show.
Yeah, we designed this tent. My father being an engineer, we designed the tent. We had the illusions going in rotation around the tent. So a prop would come in. So the curtain would open. It was timed. My brother would do all the sound and the music, and there was a curtain, and he would then pull it open, and the prop would come in, and the curtain would shut, and then it would go into this position, and then the next prop would come out, the curtain would open, and it would constantly go around like this. And so there was choreography and blocking in actually how the show was structured too, and certain tricks and illusions had to be in certain order in order for the performance to take place. So I learned, and that was a 30-minute show, so I learned to put shows together that were pretty fast-paced, not only from the audience perspective, but also from kind of not logistics, but from a kind of stage management perspective as well. And yes, didn't make it easy for ourselves. We really put on a big show.
Now, you mentioned your brother. I'd be fair to say, I think there's no way you would have had the success you've had without your brother.
Not at all. Not at all. My brother Adam's been with me since day one. I mean, going back to when I was a little kid, and he would push play on the cassette recorder when I would do a show for my parents in the living room, play, and then change the tape and put the next tape in and play on the next tape. So yeah, he's been doing it with me since day one. Very, very blessed because you get to share the load. And more importantly, just as you know, Tim, through this industry, the highs, the lows, everything has been shared. And those experiences are far heightened when you get to share them with somebody. But yeah, would not have had anywhere near the career that I have now if it wasn't for my brother at all.
Did he go on the Disney cruise with you? Because I know you did a Disney cruise for a short term.
I actually did Holland America Cruise Line. He went on the cruise with me in 2004. Any show that I've done, my brother's been with me. From schools, shopping centers, theaters, AGT, cruise ships, every show. So he hasn't missed. He's been through them all the stunts, all the TV shows, everything.
Well, you mentioned the stunts. I think probably the most famous of your stunts has been the anchored stunt that you did in 2010 before you did AGT.
Yeah, so that was paying homage to Houdini, who came to Melbourne in 1910, jumped off the Queen's Bridge into the Yarra. So 100 years later, exact same day, I decided that I would pay tribute, but instead of jumping into the Yarra where no one could see me, it was done in the Melbourne Aquarium. And instead of having kind of, he had an 11-kilo weight on his leg, like a big, heavy iron ball. I'm Italian, I decided to put 60 kilos of concrete boots and be sunk to the bottom of the aquarium. So yeah, that was the first kind of, that was my, Tim, I was doing all these theatre shows and filling them out, like 500 seats, 800 seats, and no one knew who I was.
It was amazing.
And I didn't have a manager, I didn't have an agent, I couldn't even get one. And so I thought by doing this stunt called Anchored, it would bring more kind of, not necessarily media attention, but more bring the attention of these agents and managers that I thought would change my life. And it didn't do that at all. That did not, first off, it didn't change my life and it actually didn't work. So, but the stunt was brilliant. The stunt, and it was all on my own expense, and it got me a lot of attention, but didn't really lead to anything.
I think the beautiful thing about that stunt, because every stunt has its pros and cons. The weird thing about it was watching it, because I was there on the other side of the glass, and so you take your breath and you're like underwater. So you're anchored there. There was a oxygen mask in your mouth, and that was taken away, and you're holding your breath and doing the escape. And we're all standing on the other side going, It was so weird. It was like there wasn't a sense that you were underwater. But on the other hand, the visual was astonishing because you had stingrays and sharks drifting around you while you're doing the escape. It looked amazing. It's one of those things that visually, it just summed up your sense of design that you then used in AGT. When you did AGT, all of your pieces, you designed the graphics, the lighting, everything the way they were staged yourself. For me, there's magicians, and this is the thing that people need to understand. And I think sometimes when more international people review an act or see it online, they don't quite know where you're coming from, which is fine. That's not a problem. But there's different genres in magic. For me, what I love so much about magic is the visuals. So, and I don't necessarily have to create something from scratch, but it's visually got to be appealing to me. I see things in colors and I see things as pictures. The magic is a visual art form. So that kind of is almost like, well, yeah, of course. So I pay attention to the lighting. I pay attention to the backdrops. I pay attention to just all the scenery and everything around it. That's what really motivates me. So if I'm watching a film, that's what stimulates me more than anything. It's just the visual aspect of it, which is why I got into magic in the first place, because I was visually attracted to the vaudevillian posters inside the magic book. So, of course, that's how I started and what attracted me to it and why I like comic books and why I like these action films. It's going to play through into my show. But the aquarium was a perfect example of really it being about what's the most visual, sexiest kind of image I can create. And the aquarium was beautiful. What was interesting, that first of all, that actually those visuals went around the world because they were so visual. What blew my mind was the Herald Sun took a photo of it. It appeared in the paper and it was in black and white. Yep.
Which And then, you know, a day later, 2 days later, they take a photo of me with my birds and it's in color. I will never, ever understand that.
There is no
Anyway, there you
understanding
go.
the media. There is no understanding the media in any way, shape, or form.
No,
You know that.
no,
I'm
it's
sure you've had.
strange.
I'm sure you've had the experience now, becoming a celebrity in your own right, of being misquoted and having rumors and all sorts of things going around about you.
Yeah, especially when I was on I'm a Celebrity, there was so many things I found out afterwards that were supposedly that I had said or not said, and it was very strange. But you know what? In the beginning, going back to about 2010, 2010 when we did the stunt, 2011, we didn't really know, there was no Instagram, YouTube was around, but I was very careful and cautious about what I would put online.
Mm.
Or whereas now I think people are much more willing to put anything online, and people realize, well, it's not. So for example, someone might film your show in a shopping center and put it online. I'd freak out. Oh my gosh, I can't believe my shopping center show's online, and you know, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I think people now are far more accustomed to that and realize that's not it. Like when they see that version of your show from the shopping center, let's say online, they don't go, oh, that's as good as it gets. They realize that that's been taken by some kid, and there's more of you. So that aspect of it, I'm kind of more comfortable with. But yes, in the beginning, I would freak out about what people were possibly saying, or what, because I thought that's all people are going to think. But I got over that by doing Australia's Got Talent, to be honest, later on. So
if they're talking about you, you're doing something right.
Exactly. And I know that, like, if I go on a TV show and I do, let's say, a simple card trick, and I put it on my socials, whatever it might be, it doesn't garner that much response. And then I might do an escape, let's say, and people are going, oh, it's crap. He's so crap. But all of a sudden I realize, as soon as I do the card trick, no one says anything. But the moment that I do something that's a bit more dramatic, or I push a few buttons, people start hating me a little bit, I realize, oh, great, I've hit a nerve. Because otherwise they're not saying anything at all. And that's the truth. That's what happens. Yeah. Like, it provokes, positive or negative.
Yeah, you've got to get some publicity out there and some word about you. Now, you didn't go on AGT unprepared, though. They'd approached you several times and you'd said no, but you decided to go on under your terms.
Yeah. Greg Benes had asked me 5 times to be on the show. First off, the show, when it first appeared, and this is not being rude by any means, but when it first appeared, was like Red Faces. If you go back and log it back to the first few seasons, I think 3 seasons, it was very rough. Like, I think the perspective was the judges looking down onto a dance floor. It looked like you were in a corporate or a reception center. Go back and have a look at it. And I thought, nah, this is not happening. But in 2010, the format changed. It became a bit more like the international format. And so that was the first thing. And the second thing was that Greg and I agreed that they would showcase me for who I am, positive or negative. If I said something silly, they would show it, but they wouldn't edit it in a way that would make me look silly or stupid. But if I made a mistake, it was going to be on there. So that gave me reassurance, because previously there'd been, I mean, now we don't quite understand. We're talking 10 years later now, almost 10 years. When I went on Australia's Got Talent, if you looked at the international format, many of the Americans plus Australians had, you could see it with your own eyes, horror stories of how they were being judged by the judges and what was happening. And so it was very, very scary. So I thought, if I go on there and I get represented for who I am, I could possibly be okay. It was more about not coming off looking like an idiot than looking positive. That's the truth. Yeah. It was like, okay, I'll do my act. If I'm really, really good, really, really good, I'll make the top 10. And I have to be like excellent to make the top 10. And I won't look silly or stupid. That's a risk I'm probably willing to take. But I was still very reluctant. But of course, prepared for it. Didn't just walk in there blind and think, okay, I'll just, whatever, I'll just do, I was quite orchestrated about what I was going to do.
And you'd planned acts. You hadn't yet gone, oh, I'll just do this piece from my show. You'd created them especially for the TV.
Yeah, I knew that they were very strict back then too. When you auditioned, if you went over 90 seconds, you would be X'd. So the rules are much more flexible now. You had to do 90 seconds. And I thought, well, what am I going to do for 90 seconds? The first thing I did was I realized I've got to remove my masks, because no one's going to see who I am. I had to do that. I had to realize that I needed, really strong visuals, lots of dance, people appearing, disappearing. I had to be really snappy and quick. That didn't mean artistically it was going to be the best performance. But I also knew that I needed somewhere to go. This has also changed. When I was on Australia's Got Talent, I realized at the time that the audition needed to be good to get me through. And then the second act had to be phenomenal because that's where they would cull the most acts. So if you didn't have a good act second time round, you would not make it through to the third round or the fourth. And now it's almost more about the audition. The audition act seems to be the one that's the most popular, the one that gets the most views. But it wasn't really my strategy back then. It was to get through, slide through, and then really hit them hard. And that's exactly what happened.
And every second piece you did was an escape.
Correct. So I started off with an illusion and a magic, and then it was an escape, and then it was illusion and magic, and then it was an escape. Exactly. So that was the formula because that's what I wanted. That's what I'd been doing: illusions, escapes, and I wanted to showcase all of that. If I couldn't showcase myself fully, then once again, what's the point?
I thought the second escape was interesting, where you get submerged into the water tank and we can see you underwater and you're trying to do the escape, because you can hold your breath for quite a long time, but you've only got 90 seconds.
Correct. Now, what happened with that is they gave me 2 minutes to do that. I had 2 minutes for the actual water escape. And this is how crazy it was. They were so strict on the timelines that I had to figure out a way to get into the tank, because the locking up process is quite elaborate. You want to really demonstrate that the handcuffs don't slip or come undone, that the locks don't just pop open. You want to demonstrate that the chains don't fall off your body. So I had multiple discussions with the producers about how can I show this and convince the home audience that nothing's fake. And so, but if you watch the footage, I start with all the chains on me and then I get into the tank. Now, escape artists don't have to do that. They can show the locking up process because the act can go for 5 minutes. Yeah. Back then it couldn't. So we had to do like this kind of pre-sell where Grant Denyer came in and he looked at all the equipment and he agreed that it was all okay. And we got away with it. But it blew my mind that the rules were so strict, and they were very diligent about, you can't have more time than another act. They really tried to make it fair, which is not my experience later on with these reality shows, where that fairness meter is kind of, it's not really there. It's gone out the window. Exactly. So the escape was interesting, but yes, you're right. I can't hold my breath for a really long time, but the audience didn't know that. They'd never seen me do that before. So it didn't really matter. And so, but I needed something quite dramatic, and doing the escape was really, I thought was going to be very dramatic, a visual underwater escape.
It's funny you mentioned about that time limit, because I did years ago, did the Steve Vizard late night show on Channel 7.
Right.
And I did a straitjacket escape. They said, we want you to straitjacket escape. So as we're getting time to do the straitjacket escape, they say, okay, the show's running a bit late. We're going to just start with you tied up in the straitjacket and you do the escape. I'm like, no, but what? That doesn't make any sense.
I know.
So then the compromise was they started tying me up. They cut to the news and they came back and I was tied up.
Yeah, I know.
But
the things funny that they do, not understanding those proofs that we have to go through in order to build the act. Otherwise, the jacket could just be whatever. I know.
I mean, it has got a bit better now, but I mean, you really had to sit there and demand, this is what I need to do. And how much power did you actually have?
Yeah, and also you don't want to come across being too precious and being too difficult, because then you become, you go into the too hard bag.
Yes.
Oh, you're too demanding. Oh, don't worry, let's just get the singer to sing. That also happens with corporate shows too. Like, you want to give the best performance, but then you become a bit demanding. It was a fine line that, of course, when I spoke with Greg Burness, that I kind of said I have to be able to do it the way I want in order for it to come across. And after the water escape, Greg kind of loosened up a little bit and allowed me to be a little more theatrical in my approach, because he realized it was working and visually it was very stimulating. So did I have a lot of control? A little bit. Obviously, now doing my own TV show, nowhere near enough. And which would also be it's very difficult to go back and do something like that now when you've had the control, when you can see the edits, when, but at the time you had to kind of walk that fine line. I'm not going to say I had a heap of control or power, but they were listening to what I was saying. They were listening to what I wanted on the screens, because I think what happened is the producers did their research and realized that, I'm a bit more seasoned than some of the other performers there, having done my own theatre shows, etc. So I kind of knew what I was talking about, but still butted heads with, like, I remember the costume designer, like the amount of effort I had to go through to try and explain what I wanted to wear, and just them not being receptive to it. That was a challenge, for example. Costume designers.
You didn't get to wear what you wanted? You didn't come with costumes ready to go, or what was the story?
No. That was, you would suggest what you wanted to wear. The costume designer would then come up with something, except that my costumes, unfortunately, were never ready in time. So I'd be hanging upside down with safety pins all attached to me, trying to get out of a straitjacket and being stabbed, and them going, "Are you okay?" And I'm going, "Yeah, it's fine." Not wanting to be difficult, but, no, it's not really fine.
Amazing. I didn't realize they actually provided costumes.
Yeah, they provide the costumes. Even when I did as America's Got Talent Champions, you kind of come with what you want to wear, but they kind of try and push you in they try and change your music. They try and push you in directions of what to wear or what your assistants are going to wear. They almost like want to change your whole aesthetic. The Americans were very much like that. Yeah.
You also did Asia's Got Talent, a guest spot on there. Was that the same story, or you had a bit more freedom?
I went on there and did whatever I wanted, how I wanted. There was no, as a guest artist, I could do whatever I want. There was no, it was all my way. And all the production team were Australians, the choreographers were Australians who'd choreographed my own TV shows. So they were hired over there to work on Asia's Got Talent. So it was perfect, and the lighting design. So I had complete control over everything in that scenario.
So the good thing out of the whole Australia's Got Talent, you came second, and you got your own TV series. Essentially, you got three shows on Channel 7.
Yeah. So first one was in 2012, and then the next three were in 2013. So yeah, a TV series came about it because the reality was, Tim, without trying to come off conceited, Australia's Got Talent Grand Final had 3.1 million viewers. It was the biggest show on TV that year. It beat MasterChef.
I don't think it has ever topped that number of viewers.
The year before that, it had done 2 million viewers, and the year after, it did like 1 point something. So 2 million, 3.1, and then dropped again, and it hasn't gone anywhere near that. So some people might look at me in Australia and say, "Well, Cosentino was on Australia's Got Talent and da-da-da-da." But you got to understand, timing is a secret of the universe. And in that scenario, it was the biggest show on TV. And literally, that's just written in, that was just meant to be. That was written in the stars. And that huge show led to me doing my own TV show, which got just under 2 million viewers. So more than the previous Australia's Got Talent. Yep. So that's just really good timing. And of course, that led to 3 more, et cetera, each one doing like 1.3 on average. So big numbers for virtually an unknown act.
And then you got to do AXN, the Asian TV series, The Elements.
That came about because of the guest spot on on Asia's Got Talent.
Really?
And it was, so I got to do the guest spot there. And of course, AXN put on Asia's Got Talent, and I was asked to be a guest artist, and I met everybody there, and they'd seen that I'd done previous TV specials, and that led to them wanting to do some different versions, different styles, and that's where the 4-element TV shows came about through Asia, but done on a very restrictive budget, but still a good opportunity. I traveled around 4 different countries, and that was really, that was actually a really good experience,
It must be funny though with the TV, suddenly getting like, I've got my own TV show, and then suddenly people go, okay, you've got $5 to make the whole show.
Exactly, because then you get people emailing you saying, if it was my TV show, I would have done this, which is completely fine, because if you were me, then I wouldn't be me. That's great. I don't want you to be me. You've got to do you. You've got to now, as we were talking about, Tim, you've got to appreciate that if you're a comedian or comedy magic, it's going to be very different to my style. If you're an escape artist, you've got to know who you are. Don't just start doing escapes because Cosentino does escapes. Don't start doing comedy because Tim does comedy. Do you, and understand, like in music, there's different genres. Now, do I appreciate more theatricality, more of the spectacle, yes, but that doesn't mean that I can't look at someone doing close-up magic or doing comedy and go, wow, isn't that great? It might not be my style, but I can still appreciate it. Therefore, I would never write a comment and say, well, if it was my show, you're doing your TV show, Tim, I'd say, Tim, you need to be more dramatic. I would never say that to you, because that's just not, that's not you. You can be dramatic, but maybe you wouldn't choose to do that. So I wouldn't look at it that way. Plus, budget. No one understands until they've walked in your shoes what you've literally got to make 50 cents into a dollar. You've really got to be a magician. You've got to stretch that budget so far, and you're restricted by the locations, by the people you're working with, by certain camera shots, by editing. Because what you need to understand is they're hiring editors, and you've got a certain amount of time to edit a piece. Or, for example, with the elements, you've got 5 days to edit literally a 45-minute show. 5 days. So if you're thinking about it, and there's 10 pieces in a show, let alone all the B-roll, you can't even worry about the B-roll or anything like that, because you've got to worry about the edit for the tricks. Plus, with Sony, they wouldn't let me in the editing room. So, and I'm like, but it's, my show. Anyway, there's a lot of politics that go on that people, when I say people, I mean, people in the magic fraternity have no idea why these things happen. That you can't really tell Sony in LA that, hey, I'm just going to edit the show and it is what it is, because your contract doesn't allow for that. And the reason being is they have a blanket rule. You're probably thinking, well, that's pretty ignorant, isn't it? No. They have a blanket rule. Like when they make their reality shows, they don't want talent, reality star talent. Think about some of those reality stars editing their own show. Can you imagine some of the reality stars going, I don't like the way my hair looks, or I'm not happy with what I said here, but they like it because they've said something dumb or ditzy or whatever it might be. They want to keep that in. So they're used to having a blanket rule where the talent can't control it at all. Now, of course, in a magic show, it's a very different scenario, but they don't want to play by those rules.
So in the reality shows, they're telling a story, and often it may not be a story that casts the reality star in a good light, but they know that's the story that's going to get the ratings. But with magic, of course, it is different, because there's not really usually much of a story. If there's a story, it's just you're traveling from place to place, and they're little vignettes. So
exactly.
So I guess when you do your next project, you're going to try and get a clause in there about editing, I assume.
Exactly. Except that, you learn to make friends with these people. And so some of the, the footage comes through earlier than it should, and you can adjust it, but you're still restricted to budget.
Yeah.
Because you've got to edit in a certain amount of time. And, really it all comes down to budget. It really does. It comes down to that budget and being given more time to edit it. But, they want the TV shows done within a certain frame, and you either agree or you don't agree. And for example, scoop for you, I said no to Channel 7 before I did the elements, because the budget, I wasn't going to try and do the same shows on less of a budget. Because what happened is the TV ratings just plummeted, and they wanted to do some more TV specials, but the budget wasn't anywhere near where it was previously. So my shows would have looked ridiculous compared to what I had previously done. So I had to say no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've done so much television, including live shows. You've done big stunts for Today's Show, and what else? Sunday, the big one on Sunday where you were in the massive underwater tank. All these different sort of things. And then, of course, you've done Dancing with the Stars and I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And so I guess you're making more contacts within the industry, which will then help you in the future as you move forward. It's one of those things where experience is really the best teacher.
Yeah, 100%. And it's really funny because that brings up what we were talking about when I did Asia's Got Talent as a guest artist. Because of my TV experience, you've got to remember I'd already done Australia's Got Talent. I had done my 4 television specials for Channel 7. I had done Dancing with the Stars. And now I went to Asia's Got Talent, and all the TV people were the same people I used. Some of them I'd hired. Like, I was paying them for my own TV show. So that led to, having those contacts and being able to control more of the situation, which then allowed me, to kind of negotiate, this contract with Sony AXN. So you're right. It is about those contacts and building them up and creating relationships and friendships. And not everybody you're going to create a good relationship with. Like, there were people that on my first TV special that it was very challenging working with them because they didn't really respect my art form. But the network put them on the project, and they're freelancers, but they didn't really, I felt like they didn't really respect my craft. And if you go back to, so just a job, exactly, Tim. So if you go back to Australia's Got Talent, one of the things I kept saying was how beautiful our art form is when it's executed correctly. I kept banging on about that over and over again because I really felt like it hadn't been given, still hasn't been given the respect it deserves. It's much better now, much better now. I mean, when I was growing up, magic was just, there was no cool factor about it at all, and it really did not have any respect. And we can still probably say that, but I feel it is a little better. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about it? You've been doing it longer than I have.
Definitely has changed. And, just the fact that, for example, you were invited to go onto Dancing with the Stars when it was still Stars, which was, I don't know what it is. Dancing with the people we found in the street.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, you were invited to go on there, and because you are a self-taught dancer, you were able to create some amazing visuals in that show. And I think you really did, for a lot of people who maybe they'd looked at a little bit of magic before, you did make it a bit cooler for them.
Oh, thanks, Tim. Yeah, I mean, and that was part of the reason to do Dancing with the Stars. Part of the reason to do I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here was, I tell you something else. I digress a little bit. I got asked to present at the Actor Awards in Sydney. I think that was in 2016, 15, 16. And I was so proud of that moment, Tim, because here are all these great film and television actors, and I got to present an award, and I felt like, not from just me, but for the art form, that I really genuinely, and I could be wrong, but I felt like I was elevating the craft because now we were seeing the light with the cinema and the film, and that to me was kind of pushing the craft in, elevating their respect level. Dancing with the Stars, now I go back to that, was the same thing. Like, don't just see me as a magician, see me maybe as an actor who plays the part of a magician, as you know, that famous quote. Because what happens is with magic. Okay, so if you're a wrestler, you can go into being, you can be an actor. If you're an actor, you can be a singer. If you're a singer, you can jump into acting. For some reason, if you're a magician, that's all you can do. And I bump into this a lot. It's kind of like, but you're just a magician. You're not just a magician. You do magic.
Well, there's very few magicians who've done a crossover into film or television. And I know Lance Burton did his appearance in Knight Rider.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes.
And then, anytime they want to have a magician in a film or a TV series, they cast an actor because, to be honest, most magicians are not very good actors. Yeah,
that's true. So that's interesting. And so I've tried to, I just feel like we should be given that opportunity where we're theatrical performers, and it doesn't have to be so narrow. And I'm constantly pushing to do that. So Dancing with the Stars was an opportunity to reach an audience that probably didn't care about me or care about my magic. And that definitely did that. And B, show a magician in a different light. A magician, even though I was a dancer, but showing a magician from a different perspective, not just being on AGT, there's the act, and that's how magic is done. So I think it did that. And Celebrity definitely did that. It showed me personally as being far more human than, what you see on my TV shows.
And that's one of the most important things nowadays, especially with social media, is being authentic and not being false. And that's the hard thing, because as magicians, we are liars, but we're honest liars. We have to convince the audience that we're going to be genuine with them before we start lying to them in order to get them to buy into our lies.
Yeah, correct. And that then comes down to, once again, that believability in the performer, that they're not being condescending, that they're not they are trying to fool you, as you said, but not in a malicious, not in a way that's kind of like, ha, I can do it and you can't. That's what changes it from being a kind of a puzzle for the audience to solve into more performance art. It's not an easy thing to do. And as you said, in this reality age, part of doing Get Me Out of Here was to show people, hey, I'm a normal dude. I'm a normal person, which most people who know me know. They obviously know that.
But there's that facade of Cosentino, and people often don't get to see behind that facade. But in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, you had a few moments where you were able to bring in magic in an organic way that actually affected the people, your fellow celebrities, in a very personal way.
Yeah, so I got to teach Miguel and Dale Thomas how to perform magic, which was awesome. I got to just, I got to show I didn't know everything was being filmed. I shouldn't say I didn't know what was being filmed. Everything was being filmed. I had no idea what would be aired. And so at certain times I'd just, do a few card tricks or whatever it was, but it wasn't really about, I did quite a few, but it wasn't, I'm going on there with very little. Like I didn't have much. And so it wasn't about the performing, but it was about finding those opportunities to share, as you said, with my fellow castmates, and you create. It's so weird because when you watch the show, you kind of think, God, these guys are so emotional. These guys are so dramatic. And I thought that when I'd seen the show, when you're stuck there in the jungle, sleeping on a canvas kind of. It's not even, I don't even know what it is. It's not really a bed because you get all squished in it and you have no salt and no sugar and no tea and no coffee and 800 calories a day. You go a bit loopy. So everything is heightened. I remember coming out of the jungle after 3 weeks and like just eating just a bit of salt and it being like this huge like rush. Having a hot shower. I remember they fed us one night. They had this special fridge and we went into the fridge and I had a cupcake, a poppy seed cupcake. The rush of sugar, and they do it on purpose. I had gone crazy on sugar, and then of course the sugar crash. So it's funny how they play with you, but I think the point I'm trying to make is every emotion is heightened, good and bad.
So did you feel manipulated?
100% you're manipulated. That if you don't realize you're walking into that show to be manipulated, I would say to the other cast members, and Tim, I haven't watched any episodes of Get Me Out of Here because what's done is done. I can't edit it. I can't change it. It's not my show. I received tremendous feedback about who I was as a person, my integrity, being real, all those types of things. So I haven't watched the show. Some other cast members are like, I can't watch the show. I can't wait to watch the show. And I said, what? Why? And they said, because I just want to see how I came across, what I look like, and what I can improve on. And I thought, but I can't really improve. Like, I just was me. Like, I'm not sure how I can. It's not a magic act. Like, I can't improve on anything because I am who I am. Like, yeah, maybe I could possibly be nicer to people in certain situations. Possibly, yeah. But I'm not really working on, that's just who I am. So there was nothing to really work. I wasn't manipulating anything. On the flip side, I said to my castmates, everything we're doing here is through manipulation. Sometimes I would wake you up in the middle of the night. You wouldn't see it on TV. So when you wake up in the morning, you're grumpy. Oh, lo and behold, why be grumpy? Or a challenge didn't go right, so you haven't eaten. So not only are you getting 800 calories a day, but you're getting less than that on that particular night because things didn't go right. You might not see that. So you're constantly being manipulated the same way that, like little mice in an experiment where sometimes you can smell the food behind the door, but you can't get past and you can't figure out how to get past. And people, I mean, Perez Hilton, he went, at certain stages, he went mad because you couldn't eat. And so it affects people in different ways. But yes, 100% being manipulated like little mice.
And I know you do tend to like going to the gym. I don't know why. I mean, I just keep this shape myself with no exercise at all. But
perfect.
But how did you cope with no gym in the jungle?
So I'm 68, 70 kilos. I'm quite light. So I lost 5.5 kilos in the jungle. And I thought when I went in there, oh yeah, I'll get some bits of wood and I'll do some weights and I'll work out. But it's very difficult, Tim, to actually get up and, believe it or not, and go to the bathroom. Like, it requires effort. Or when your canister runs out of water, you think, oh. And so someone might be going to fill up their water bottle and they'd be like, does anyone want their water bottle for them? I'm like, yeah, grab my water bottle. Because it takes a lot of energy and you try and conserve as much energy as possible. And Do you know what? It's really interesting too, and this is quite kind of sad. Like I know when I walk through the city and I see homeless people, and you see them sleeping a lot, and you think, oh, they sleep a lot. Part of that is the fact that they're not. There's no nutrition. They're not eating, and that's why they're so tired. Like you're so tired all the time. It's quite bizarre, and that the tiredness, the hungry, the emotions, it really plays on you. So you can pretend to be someone for about a week, and then after that, the real you comes out. And that happened to a lot of people in there. And so you can't really hide at all. And there's cameras everywhere.
Well, I'm glad you did it. I didn't want to do
Yeah,
it.
it's
I
tough.
would do it. It would be a horrible thing, I think. It would be,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you're happy you did it, though. I mean, you're happy it was well worth it in the end.
Yes. And once again, that was a situation where they'd asked me to do it from season 1. Stephen Tate asked me from season 1 to do it. I'm never going to jump on the first season. And I would never do that. And I waited and waited and waited. And I thought the timing was right. And lo and behold, Celebrity had its highest ratings.
Well,
Dancing with the Stars had its highest ratings when I was on it.
well,
Timing.
I guess if Love Island wants to have their highest rating.
No. Do you know what the problem with those shows? Draw the line. That's it. That's the line, Tim. No, those shows, like, you know, I mean, I never got to see it fully, but Married at First Sight, like just some of the things I heard. One of the gentlemen in there, Ryan, was on I'm a Celebrity, and he was in Married at First Sight. He said it was horrific. The manipulation. It's 3 months later it airs, and just how they changed the footage, and so yeah, no, I would never.
You
never do a show
just
like
have
that.
to get onto Netflix and watch the show Unreal. It's
Unreal.
a parody expose of those sort of dating shows like Bachelor shows. And once you watch it, you're watching it and just going, I can't believe every single character in this show is horrible. I hate them all. But you can't stop watching because every season it just gets worse and worse as they manipulate people just for ratings.
Yeah. And what I found with these shows too, a lot of the people that are in them, they get rewarded for that bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
They get rewarded for being vicious. So yeah, I'm not into that at all.
You got to keep your villain. You got to keep your villain on the show.
You do. You do. I understand that you do. And those people, they will never change, because if you get rewarded and it's positive reinforcement, it's not gonna. But I wouldn't want to be like that at all.
But we've got to wrap this up a little bit. I've got to ask before we go. You've done something. You've done a lot of things in your career that I certainly would go, oh, I wish I'd done that. The one thing you have done that's made me so jealous, you got to be in a Jackie Chan movie.
I did. That was but Tim, that was a little bit of luck.
Synchronicity.
Yeah, correct. I have a casting agent for film, and they were looking for somebody to help Jackie create a fight scene. The idea was it was filmed at the Sydney Opera House, and a fight scene was going to break out. You know that Jackie Chan runs up walls and jumps through kind of ladders. He needed to adapt his style to have a fight scene that would incorporate magic. So for 3 weeks, they came to Magicland, and we incorporated really interesting things that you'd like. Like, you know, we had ideas about, you know, he picks up 2 linking rings, and he puts one over the head of one of the baddies, and he puts it on and puts them together, and then they kind of clothesline each other. Tim, we had such good stuff. In the end, and we spent 3 weeks doing this choreography with his fight team. What you've got to understand is his fight team are his assistants. Everybody he beats up, as you probably know, are his assistants. So sometimes they're masked, sometimes they're in costume, but they're all the same people. So spent a lot of time putting him in contraptions where maybe he'd roll into a contraption, the lid would be shut, the baddie would open it, and he wouldn't be there, and he'd be somewhere else. And we would do it in real time. In the end, they narrowed it down. We brought an 8-ton truck up of equipment. Yep. Where we had all this great stuff. It moved and changed a lot, but there was conflict between the Australian, I'm not sure what they call it, the Australian team and the Hong Kong film team. In the end, they kind of narrowed it down to literally cards coming out, very, very cliche stuff. Cards coming out of a hat, a rabbit, which made him look quite heroic, because, you know, the rabbit, he had a rabbit, he couldn't fight with his hands because he was protecting this precious little thing. So that's what happened. We choreographed all that. And the original magician was this oracle who explains to Jackie Chan's niece why she's so special and why all these baddies are chasing her, because somehow she's got special blood which brings eternal youth. That was the concept. And she goes and sees the Oracle, who's a magician / hypnotist, who reveals this to her. And he was an old Chinese man.
Yeah.
But when I went for the casting, I went as me, started choreographing all this for them. And then slowly you would see the renders of each of the characters. And the render became a little bit more like me. Like he had long hair at one stage, but he was still kind of Chinese with a bit of a beard. And then the beard got shorter and it became more like this. And then there was kind of like some dreads put into it. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. But okay, I'm happy to inspire. In the end, they said, just you played a part. Okay. So I'm going to play the part of this Oracle, this magician who would be on stage, who would act it out. No problem. Easy. On the night, they asked me to say some lines that would be appropriate for that character. And I'm like, oh, what do you want me to say? And they said, I'll say whatever you want. So I just made some things up, and that's what appears in the film, dubbed. It's dubbed in a different voice, which is interesting because I would have said, tell me, I will do an accent for you or whatever you want. What do you want me to do? But anyway, so it ends up being dubbed a little bit like that whole Arnold Schwarzenegger first film dubbing.
Yeah, it's English dubbed into English.
It's very, very odd. And I could have put on a deeper voice or whatever they wanted, but it was so last minute. That's what shocked me. And they had me in the beginning, they spent hours trying to make me appear in smoke. And I said, guys, I have that piece of equipment over there, which is called a smoke chamber, that I can do that for you. And it would look quite great. No, we'll do it with smoke. Didn't work. But anyway, they moved away from that. A lot of stuff was done on the fly, but what an experience to work with Jackie Chan and his team. And they film it, Tim, in a very interesting manner, not like Hollywood, where they film, I'm probably telling you many things that you know, they film long shots, where they don't, so you can see the whole fight scene taking place, kind of like a magic show where you want to see it all and not have too many cuts and too many edits. Very interesting stuff. And how Jackie would come into the room, and he had this thing about so they would muck around so much trying to work out what to film, how to film it. I spent 3 weeks there, and then Jackie walked in there on set, and he did his thing where he would say, ding, 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 like as if he was ringing a bell. He'd go, ding, 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 and everyone would be at attention. And filming would begin. And he'd say, cut, and would stop. Like, he was very charismatic, and he was wonderful to work for. And you know what was really what he loved? I showed him the classic trick where you put the silks in the bra and you pull out the bra. Tim, as soon as he saw that, he was upset. I gave it to him and said, and he was, yep. He was obsessed with running around the set and pulling out bras. True story. So that was my experience with Jackie, but lovely guy.
You've just ruined my perception. He likes the bra trick.
He likes the bra trick. And, I don't know it was very, and we had so many elaborate things we could have done, but they wanted to keep it simple. I think they were worried about the filming time and how long it would take to film all these things, not knowing that we could do it literally in one shot.
I saw him years ago, Melbourne Central, when he was filming Mr. Nice Guy, and he was on the center of the stage, and they had someone in the balcony, and he's like, "Hey, would you like some food?" And he's flicking food to people, and he's flicking it out to the audience. And so they get to the point, it flicks to the guy in the balcony, and the guy almost caught it in his mouth. Yeah. So Jackie goes, "Oh, okay, let's do that." So do like 30 or 40 takes, trying to get it to happen again. Finally, they get it, and Jackie goes, "Great, but you're supposed to, like, when you get in your mouth, go, yeah." So do another 30 takes. And this does not happen in Hollywood, but that's just the Jackie Chan style of filming.
Exactly. And I think because it was a co-production with Australia, they were worried about those time frames, how long it was going to take to make a guy appear in smoke, even though, as I said, we could have done it very, very easily. So certain things fell by the wayside, even though we had to bring everything up. And they liked that. What I did like about it, they liked that experimenting. Like, oh, we'll try this, and maybe we could do a bit of that. Like, at one stage, I have flames in my hand. Tim, what do you think I did? They asked me, can you have flames in your hand? Well, what do you think I did? I had, flame palms. Yeah. And I did it for real. But they put it back in CGI. Anyway.
Crazy. It's crazy. And is that you got your actor award for that?
No, not at all.
Best supporting actor.
Not at all.
The Oracle.
But do you know what's funny? They really threw me in the deep end, because then there was a scene that took on. see, this is what's funny, because I read the script, but then I didn't quite know everything was going to take place, and things kept shifting. At one stage, I get stabbed, and then I get kicked, and I fly across into the seat. I mean, talk about being thrown into the deep end, learning, having to come up with lines on the night, and then do this whole stab scene. But it was a, you know, to be killed in a Jackie Chan film was pretty awesome.
It's certainly something fantastic for your resume. Now, I've got to go and wrap this up, because this has been a fantastic conversation. We can talk for hours. We normally do, but we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. We've gone way over time, but that's all right. I want to tell people about your projects you're doing while you're in lockdown, your magic school.
Yes, so finally I've gotten around to actually starting to create the Cosentino School of Magic. So every week on a Wednesday, I upload some very simple magic tricks. I'm experimenting because I don't know how far I should go with how elaborate they should be. And I'm trying to find the right audience, because if the tricks are too elaborate, I might lose people. If they're too simple, no, I'll be interested. So I'm kind of feeling that out. But every Wednesday I teach a trick. So people can learn. I perform the effect, and then I teach them the effect to the best of my ability. And, you know, people seem to be liking it at this stage. Continuing on with the children's books, we're now up to book number 5, 6, 7, and 8 for the kids' books through Scholastic. Working on another book for HarperCollins, and new talks about TV specials, etc. And
another magic
set?
So
another magic set, yes. I've got a street magic set coming out, a revamp of the 200 plus magic set, and more live shows will be coming once they're all... I'll be making an announcement this week about the Crown Casino shows, about the shows in New South Wales, which have all been rescheduled, postponed. So all stuff coming up, but on my socials. If people just want to follow me on the socials and see what I'm up to, then yeah, check that out.
Socials down there, we'll put it down there. And so your website's only got about 2 of the books listed at the moment, 2 of the kids' books.
We're behind. We're in. This is one of the time. I know, terrible, isn't it, Tim? This is one of the times for us to revamp the entire website. So there's 4 children's books. They actually, you can read them individually, but it's actually is a bit of a set. But on my website, cosentino.com.au. But again, all on the socials, everything is absolutely there. Do you know what, Tim? I'll ask you a question. Do you need a website anymore?
I've got like 5, you know. I'm trying.
So you need a website. That's the answer?
Well, I don't know. I'm finding, for me, I'm sending out most of the information, all the Laneway Lives and all this sort of stuff out on Facebook. And that's where people are getting the information. But I'm way behind, you know. Dom is out there doing all the Instagram stuff. He just focuses on Instagram. And there's a few people who are just, I think Adam Matter said one of his young cardistry guys, Ash, is just doing TikTok and has like a couple of million followers on TikTok.
Wow.
So I don't know. I just thought TikTok was a biscuit. I'm way behind.
I don't use TikTok, but you know what? You don't want to spread yourself too thin as well. Like, you don't want to be Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. It's a lot. You've got to kind of, I think you have to make some choices. I just think it's interesting now. Like, do people go to Cosentino website to find out about him? Maybe, or do they just jump on Instagram or Facebook? I don't know. I actually don't have the answer at this stage.
No, but your website is fantastic. So it's been really one of the most elaborate of all the magic websites. So I recommend people go and have a look anyway before it changes.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Before we update it, make it even better.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for spending this time chatting to me. And I know you've got to get back to writing books and uploading some magic tricks and stuff, but it's been fantastic chatting with you. All the best for when the tours resume.
Yes.
And I hope we can all get back into real theatres and watch real shows sooner than later.
I agree, Tim. But thank you so much. It's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.